You need a dynamic, innovative and responsive approach to strategy and planning, and I think strategy in action is that.
For over 25 years, Resilient Futures has researched and proven through application strategy and action as a robust planning and strategy methodology for all operating environments, but in particular for dealing with disruptive change. In 2015, we wrote Disruptive Strategy for Exponential Change, a book that has now sold over 15,000 copies in places like Australia, the USA, the EU, the UK, and even in China. In Disrupted, we described in detail how strategy and action works, the framework, the tools, the methodology, and how it has been applied by various organizations. People today now tell us that although the book was written and published in 2015, it is now more relevant than ever.
The best spin-off has been around capability and being aware of where our capability gaps have been.
Disrupted and Strategy and Action were conceived and developed through working hands-on with large organizations in Australia and in the USA. Leading organizations in Australia that have used strategy and action include General Motors, IBM, Ericsson, Royal Australasian College of Surgeons, Optometry Australia, City of Casey, and Victoria University. And it is also being used by one of Australia's largest and leading industry players, Southern Metropolitan Cemeteries Trust. In addition, one of the world's largest global business associations, the Young Presidents Organization, used strategy and action as part of their annual strategy and planning learning and development program with the London Business School. These organizations have applied strategy and action in many ways. For new strategy and planning, or for a strategy refresh, or even a stress test of an existing strategy or plan. For innovation strategy, change plans, and strategic risk management. Strategy and action has also served as a cornerstone for leadership training and coaching. Embedded in the strategy and action framework are 4 essentials for strategy and planning in 2021. So the first is know the conditions you face. And just think for a minute about the world as it was in 2019. We were dealing with issues such as digital disruption, and that was sort of front of mind for most people. On top of that, there were changes to workplace and workforce as many organizations grappled with the new future of work. Add to that the reality of our changing climate, and particularly as that was showing up in 2019 in bushfires in Australia, the USA, parts of South America, and so on. At that stage, many organizations were already disrupted. They may not have realized that, but they were, and there was more to come. A hyper disruption in 2020 with the arrival of COVID-19. And now we find ourselves in 2021, which is essentially 2020 with a different name. So it is essential to know the immediate and emergent conditions that your organization is facing. And the best way to do that is through a thorough conditions analysis. This will serve as a shared context for decision making, ensuring that executive, managers, key staff, and other leaders in your organization are aligned to the reality of the immediate emergent conditions. And what this does then is enable strategic focus based on reality that translates to fast action with impact. A robust conditions analysis will reveal strategic opportunity and strategic risk, or as we think about it, strategic opportunity risk. And I really must stress here, this is not about a roll of the dice or a creative gamble. This is getting very clear about the reality of the immediate and emergent conditions and the opportunities and risks it presents for your organization and your industry, so you can get focused on the right things at the right time. And if we're going to be authentic about managing strategic risk, it's got to be in the open, and we've got to find the opportunities to pursue. We cannot anymore just stick strategic risk in the risk register and pretend like we have it covered. And this is not about unrealistic missions and visions which are not based on the reality of emergent conditions. This is about getting clear-eyed and focused on the world as it is and as it may become, and making the best strategic decisions we can about where we're going to focus and what we are going to pursue. Otherwise, we set ourselves up for potential failure in how we approach our strategy and plan.
Disruptive change is a way of life. Volatility is the new normal.
With complex and rapid change part of our new norm, we must set ourselves up where possible to change ahead of change, and if not, at least to be able to change in sync with conditions as they emerge. This is especially true for disruptive change that impacts core business activities. Pivoting using strategy and action provides time for formulation and planning for change. Strategy and action also clearly shows the right capability to invest in at the right time and what capability to let go, because it will not be relevant in the conditions that are emerging. The end game for all strategy and planning is sustainable value generation. Let me say it again, sustainable value generation. And what do we mean by that? What we mean is what we are producing, product, services, our business model, our operating model, is it valued in the world? Does what we produce align to the values of our customers and our suppliers? And then how do we sustain our ability to generate that value over time? What this means is that any strategy and planning activity must take the immediate term into account, but at the same time must build a foundation for future value realization based on emerging conditions without a decline in performance. So in our work, what we really look for and how we measure a client's performance is how well they are able to target sustainable value generation over time. If that is not part of the focus, then there's some really tough questions to ask. In Disrupted, we describe the strategy and action value equation. The value equation is those intrinsic elements that our research has shown make up a sustainable organization. And without a consciousness to those elements, no organization will survive and thrive in 2021 and beyond. The generation of sustainable value is a key and priority part of strategy and action. And yes, I'd also like to add a bit of a word of warning. Those organizations that fail to focus on sustainable value generation, particularly given the volatile and uncertain conditions that we are all facing, run the serious risk of managed adaptive decline. Managed adaptive decline, or MAD, occurs when an organization ignores or misreads reality and gradually or rapidly adapts to ever-declining market conditions. And often this can be done in a seemingly very well managed manner. But drifting into MAD creates an inevitable inability to generate sustainable value. Like the metaphorical frog placed in the pot of cold water that is then gradually heated up, a mad organization adapts and adapts and adapts to those changing conditions until it no longer has the capability to climb out of the pot and it boils to death. How many organizations have you seen that are either mad or heading towards mad in 2021? And here's a tough one. What about your organization? Are you in or at risk of managed adaptive decline?
We actually have made quantum leaps in our thinking and the way that we actually see the world.
So just to reinforce those 4 key essentials for strategy and planning in 2021. Know the conditions you face. Act on strategic opportunity and strategic risk. Pivot fast and focus on sustainable value generation. Thank you for viewing our video, and we hope it has been beneficial in 2 ways. 1, we hope it has provided valuable information to support your strategy and planning in 2021. And 2, we hope it has opened you up to thinking differently about strategy and planning and making sure that the approach that you use is fit for the reality of the disruptive conditions in 2021 and beyond. So please consider strategy in action to support you and your team and your organization in your strategy and planning activities in 2021. To find out more, please feel free to get in touch, and you can reach me directly via email david.platt@resilientfutures.com. I'd love to talk.